If you've ever been stabbed in the back by someone you trusted, you're not alone. This is the story of how I was betrayed, broken, and left for dead, but came back to build an empire and bring my enemy to his knees. Hit that like button, subscribe, and buckle in because this revenge, it's personal. There's a particular silence that fills a room when your world starts to crumble. Not the peaceful kind, not the kind people write poems about. It's the kind that creeps in after 3 days of unopened bills, stale takeout containers, and the crushing realization that no one's coming to save you. That was my life. My name is Tyler, and this was the lowest point I'd ever known. The kind of low where you stare at the cracked ceiling of your one-bedroom apartment and wonder how the hell it all went so wrong. Just a year before, I had a business, my own office, clients, dreams, a future. But now, I was working 2 jobs that barely covered rent. One in a hardware store during the day and graveyard shifts at a 24-hour diner, smelling like bacon grease and coffee grounds just to stay afloat. Every morning, I'd come home from the diner, toes numb, wrists aching, and collapse onto the couch. And every morning, I'd check my account, hoping maybe, just maybe, something would have changed. It never did. But the worst part wasn't the poverty or the exhaustion or even the failure. It was Alex. Alex was my business partner. Scratch that. Alex was my best friend. We met in college. Shared everything, classes, ramen noodles, even dreams. We had a plan, start our own tech consultancy, disrupt the local market, and eventually scale into something huge. And for a while we did. We landed a couple of solid clients, rented an office space, and even hired a small team. We were grinding, hustling, growing. But then cracks began to show. It started with small things, misplaced invoices, suspicious charges on the company card, unexplained absences. I'd ask Alex about them, and he always had an answer. Client dinner, accounting error. I'll check it out. I wanted to believe him. I needed to. He was my partner, my friend, but something didn't sit right. I started digging carefully, quietly. I went through the financial records, cross-checked receipts, followed a digital paper trail I never wanted to find. And what I found was betrayal in its rawest form. Alex had been funneling money from our shared accounts into shell corporations he secretly owned. Thousands, then tens of thousands just gone. All while I was burning myself out, running day-to-day operations, trusting that he had our backs. The final blow came when I walked into our office one morning and found it empty. Furniture gone. Equipment gone. Staff gone. Alex gone. All that remained was a letter from our lawyer. Due to financial insolvency, your partnership has been dissolved. He had legally removed my name from our LLC days before. He left me with nothing but the dead in my name. That night, I sat on my floor with a bottle of cheap whiskey and a mountain of debt notices, wondering if I should just disappear. Everything I'd worked for erased. But then, something strange happened. As I stared at the walls, blank, cracked, indifferent, something inside me shifted. It wasn't anger. Not yet. It was something colder, sharper, like steel being forged. I realized I had 2 choices. Lay down and let him win, or stand up and become the kind of person who could tear him down. I chose the second. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. I didn't understand what that really meant until I spent 3 months eating nothing but canned soup, scraping pennies for bus fare, and watching the man who betrayed me throw yacht parties on Instagram. That was Alex's life now. He was the guy grinning in every selfie, sipping champagne with models, flashing watches he never had when we were partners. His captions? Always some cryptic motivational crap. Cut the dead weight and you'll learn how to fly. Winners take what they're owed. Lesson of the week. Never share the crown. I read them all. I memorized them because every post was a knife. And I wasn't bleeding anymore, I was sharpening. I knew if I wanted to take him down, I couldn't just scream into the void. I needed leverage. I needed proof. And most of all, I needed patience. At first, I started small. Late nights after my diner shifts, I'd crawl into bed and start researching. I created a burner laptop, new emails, encrypted folders. I read every article I could find on corporate fraud, embezzlement, LLC dissolution, and civil litigation. But that wasn't enough. I needed something solid, something that could hold up in court and ruin him beyond just money. So I made a plan. Step 1. Track the money trail. See, Alex wasn't smart. He was arrogant. And arrogance? It leaves fingerprints. He never shut down our old shared cloud storage. Rookie mistake. Tucked in an old folder labeled Taxes 2018, I found what I was looking for. Internal spreadsheets. Transaction logs. Raw CSV files with account numbers he forgot to scrub. It was like watching a puzzle build itself in reverse. Every line item, every shady wire transfer, every fake invoice proof. And with every click, I could feel my pulse slow. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was hunting. The next 6 weeks became a blur. I worked. I slept. I studied. I documented. I built a case file that could make a forensic accountant weep. I even managed to connect him to 2 subcontractors who'd never been paid, one of whom threatened to sue me before I explained the situation. They agreed to help, but it wasn't enough for Alex to be exposed. I needed him to feel it. Humiliation. Consequences. Prison time. So I contacted an old friend, Miranda, a corporate lawyer I hadn't spoken to in years. We were tight in college, then drifted. I explained everything, showed her the files, the evidence, the shell companies, the laundering. She said 2 words. He's fucked. Something changed in me during that time. I stopped feeling like a victim. Stopped apologizing for being angry. Stopped flinching when someone said his name. Because while Alex was out there chasing clout, I was becoming someone else entirely. Someone stronger. Someone sharper. Someone who'd already crawled through fire and decided to bring matches next time. We filed a lawsuit. We submitted everything to the authorities. Fraud. Theft. Tax evasion. Wire fraud. The case took months to build. But when the audit hit his doorstep, everything changed. It started with a quiet update on LinkedIn, taking a short break from work, focusing on family. Then the Instagram post stopped. Then the comments disappeared. Then silence. The arrest didn't make national headlines, but in our circle, it was nuclear. Turns out, Alex had built his castle on sand, and the tide finally came in. He was charged with multiple counts of corporate fraud. His assets were frozen. His accounts seized. The people who once begged to be on his yacht, they ghosted him. And me? I watched it all unfold with the quiet satisfaction of someone who'd bled for every inch of ground they reclaimed. See, revenge isn't about rage. It's about rebirth. And while Alex was fighting to keep himself out of prison, I was working on something else, something bigger. A new company. I took everything I'd learned, the hard way, and built a lean, scalable, ethical consultancy. No fluff. Turns out, no ego. A lot of Alex's just old smart work with smart people. Care for fraud. At first, and they needed just me a laptop and a spreadsheet. Starting over is fast when you're starting over after betrayal. And when you've got a good story, that's like learning to walk again with knives in your knees. But I had something I didn't have before: clarity. No partners, no dead weight, just me, and a business I built brick by brick, fueled by obsession and grit. I called it Forge Strategies because fire doesn't destroy everything. Sometimes it makes steel. The first client came from a LinkedIn message. The second was a referral. The third? That one had once belonged to Alex. I didn't poach them. They came willingly. Because in the world of business, trust is currency, and Alex had overdraft his. I didn't even have to mention his name. He'd already done the damage. By the time Alex's trial started, Forge Strategies had 6 employees and a client waiting list. I was still working 16-hour days, but now they were my hours, on my terms. And every invoice we sent out was another nail in the coffin of the man who left me with nothing. Alex, on the other hand, he was fighting 5 felony charges. His lawyer tried everything: plea deals, character references, even blaming me. It didn't work. The court had paper trails, client testimonies, digital evidence, and forensic accounting so airtight it could suffocate a rat. He was found guilty, sentenced to 7 years in state prison. His final court appearance? He didn't even look at me. But I looked at him, and I saw a man who thought he was untouchable, now shackled in an orange jumpsuit, staring down the barrel of consequences. I wasn't planning to visit him, but closure isn't always convenient. 3 months into his sentence, I filed for visitation. I wanted one thing: to look him in the eye, to let him see who I became, to remind him of what he lost, not just a company, not just money, but me. The room was cold, with cracked tile floors and a ticking wall clock louder than it needed to be. When he walked in, he looked smaller, thinner, beaten. His eyes flicked up, saw me, and for a moment, just a flicker, his jaw tightened. He sat. "Why are you here?" he muttered. I didn't smile, didn't gloat, just leaned in calm. "You thought you could take everything from me," I said. "But I took everything from you too. The difference is, I rebuilt. You just ran." He said nothing. The silence sat between us, heavy, bitter, final. And I stood, nodded once, and walked away. Walking out of that prison, I felt something I hadn't in years. Not joy, not revenge, peace. Because the real win wasn't his punishment. It was mine, my healing, my resurrection. Alex tried to break me, and he did for a while. But what he didn't understand is that rock bottom isn't death, it's foundation. And I built something stronger on it, cleaner, fire-tested. I still see Alex sometimes. Not in person, in memories, in mistakes I'll never make again. He taught me that trust is sacred, that contracts matter, that loyalty without accountability is just naivety. But he also taught me something else, something more important, that the worst day of your life doesn't have to be your last. If you use it right, it becomes the first day of your real life. Alex, in prison, reputation ruined, fortune gone. Sometimes, the people who hurt us the most are the ones who teach us what we're truly capable of. And revenge? It doesn't always look like screaming or fighting. Sometimes it's just surviving better than they ever imagined. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and drop a comment. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted? Let's talk about it below. And if you want more real revenge stories just like this one, make sure you subscribe, because we're just getting started.